now is Democratic Senator Chris Coons. He is on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, among other things, and he is a supporter of Joe Biden in the 2020 campaign. Senator Coons, thank you very much for being with us right now. Help us understand what the existence of this second whistleblower does to the case. Why is another person, what does he or she add, given the mountain of evidence that already exists?
Oh, well, John, I think this is partly why you hear nothing from my Republican colleagues about President Trump's jarring conduct in Ukraine and his recent action inviting on the South Lawn an investigation of his chief political rival, Joe Biden, by China and Ukraine, is that with additional facts coming out with an additional whistleblower, that's frozen a lot of Republicans in place out of fear that they don't know what's going to drop next. And I think it gives added urgency to the House impeachment inquiry as they try to get to the bottom of this, get the facts out, and get their inquiry moving forward quickly.
But what more information do you need at this point?
That's a fair question. Look, as the last week has unrolled, it's clearer that more and more senior members of this administration were either on the phone call or briefed about the phone call or actively engaged in efforts to try and persuade the newly elected president of Ukraine, Zelensky, to participate in what was an abuse of power by President Trump. He is alleged to have put pressure on Ukraine by withholding military aid that's badly needed by Ukraine. And so I think there is some more evidence that could be gathered here that'd be directly relevant about the role the Secretary of Energy, the Secretary of State, and the White House acting chief of staff played in this matter. So that's some of the things that I think this second whistleblower may lend some light to.
You just noted the Republican response to this, and you brought up the president's comments on the South Lawn inviting China to investigate the president. Well, some Republicans haven't been silent about it. They just say the whole thing's a joke. Right. Listen.
I don't think it's a real request. I think, again, I think he did it to gig you guys.
I doubt if the China comment was serious, to tell you the truth.
You really think he was serious about thinking that China's going to investigate the Biden family?
What do you say to these Republican senators?
I say that they're forgetting a very important recent chapter in history when, in the middle of the 2016 campaign, President Trump openly said, Russia, if you're listening, it'd be great if you'd get to the bottom of Hillary's emails. As we know from the Mueller report, Russian military intelligence the next day began an effort to try and infiltrate Hillary Clinton's campaign email system. So to think that this is a joke at a time when we've heard from the director of the FBI, from the director of national intelligence, that our adversaries are going to interfere in our 2020 election, I think this is deadly serious. And I think it's no laughing matter to suggest that a president who openly abuses the office of president should be allowed to just laugh this off. That is a stunningly, I think, inappropriate defense.
Well, you brought up the Director of National Intelligence and the intelligence services here. And if we have the sound, I'd like to play Senator Ron Johnson, who is the chair of the Senate Homeland Security Committee, who now says he just doesn't believe the intelligence community, period, full stop. Listen to this.
I just want the truth. The American people want the truth.
So do you not trust the FBI? You don't trust the CIA?
No,
I'm just very confused here.
Absolutely
you don't trust
not.
either
After
of those
Peter Strzok and
agencies.
Lisa Page?
Okay.
After James Comey?
You believe the FBI and the CIA,
John
these
Brennan? No, I don't
agencies?
trust any of these guys in the Obama administration. I don't trust any of them.
You don't trust them now? Do you trust them now?
No, I didn't trust them back then.
Talk to me about the impact here, given that the goal, I thought, was to protect the United States in the next election. What does that mean if the chair of the Senate Homeland Security Committee doesn't believe the findings from the intelligence community in the last election?
Well, that's part of the ways in which President Trump's unconventional leadership has now infected the most senior levels of the Republican leadership in the Senate. Senator Johnson of Wisconsin is the chairman of the Homeland Security Committee. And President Trump, from his times as a candidate, has said things that disrespect or undermine our intelligence community, publicly taking the word of Vladimir Putin over our own intelligence community, over our own FBI back in 2016, 2017. I watched that interview this weekend live, and my jaw was on the floor as Senator Johnson said, I don't believe the FBI, I don't believe the intelligence community. And I frankly think this should give all of us pause, because Folks who are in leadership in the Congress who are entrusted with protecting our national security, our homeland security, and our next election are openly challenging and questioning the credibility of these important institutions in our life.